Hey, good evening. Hope you all are having a great Monday. Getting some rain here in Texas, and thought you'd enjoy a little bit of that view of the countryside there. Off in the distance, you can see the Trinity River on a couple of these videos. Anyway, getting some good use out of that drone. Let's check out the weather this evening across the rest of the country. Well, that tropical moisture sure has made inroads into much of the central and southern U.S., even out east. Getting some good moisture in that area. And let me, yeah, there we go. Let's take a closer look. We'll zoom in on the mesoscale. And the thing that we really notice here is the dew point temperatures. They're way up in the 70s in a lot of places in Texas. We've got 76 there around Columbus, around 72 at Austin, and even 70s all the way up to East Texas. And that's pushing that dry line out to the west. And let's see if we can locate that. Good place to start is up in Colorado. You can see 30s and 40s dew points up around Trinidad and Lamar. Contrast that with 60s out around Dodge City and Perryton and Guyman. So that dry line should be pretty easy to find. So we're going to go roughly with a position like that. So triple point from up there around, I guess that would be around Scott City, all the way down to about Vega, Texas, and then down to Midland. However, we notice that there's a pretty good easterly component across the dry line. So that's helping to push that moisture eastward and take the dry line with it. And that's typically what we see in June. We normally find a lot of that moisture out in New Mexico. And June is actually the rainiest time of the year for New Mexico. All right, let me check in on chat, make sure the audio is good, make sure I don't sound like Darth Vader tonight. Let's see here. I got Michelle Curlin, unusually clear, a few scattered thunderheads there in Ventura, Santa Barbara. Excellent. And David Lumbert, Maumelle, 83 over, or 85 over 63% relative humidity, so that gives a dew point of 71. Sue M reporting very hot in Indiana, but I did see one thunderstorm go up, and we've got a satellite loop of that. Got Carl Berghoff here, Bill K. Ryan Toomeys, Erica Baker, Coffeyville, Kansas, 86 over 70. Ryan Toomeys reporting very hot conditions there, high pressure across South Florida. Michelle Curlin likes the drone footage, and Electric Dog just missed it. Well, you can catch it on the replay. All right, let's go into the chart sequence and see how things look tonight. And let me check the dropped frames. This is how I check and make sure that our video is good. We had about 12,000 dropped frames last night. There was something going on with our network, and we really dug in there to try to find out what happened. So I think we're up and running tonight. Hopefully, cross your fingers. All right, let me pull up the sequence. There's the SPC storm reports. Lots of wind reports along that front there, where they've had thunderstorms go up in New York and New England there. Current condition as far as convective outlook, slight risk up in northern Colorado up to the Cheyenne area and just north of Omaha there. However, marginal risk all the way east to New York there with that front lying east-west. This would probably be a good time to take a look at the thickness and isobars and find out just where that front is. This is how it looks right at this hour. Low pressure up in the Canadian Maritimes, and that's going to bring that front down into the northern New England area, into the eastern Great Lakes. And then you can see that we cut through this ridge. I guess this is kind of a col, C-O-L, and that's kind of like a saddle area between high pressure up to the north and south and low pressure to the east and west. So that gives us kind of a saddle point, what we call there. And the front kind of trails in through that col area, and then it picks back up as kind of a warm front through Nebraska. Looks like also that boundary out through the Central Rockies is still there. Looks like it's kind of fallen apart a bit, but we're going to find that from just north of Denver to south of Salt Lake City into the Las Vegas area. It's pretty close to where it was yesterday. And we can see the Gulf is open. Very deep fetch of southerly flow, bringing in some rich tropical moisture, and we can look at that on the soundings. So let's go in and do that right now. Here's the Fort Worth sounding from 1 hour ago. And the first thing that I usually look at this time of year is the moisture profile right there, especially in the lower levels. And what we see here, what I like to do is look at the mixing ratios, and we're going to try to keep track of that over the next couple weeks. So it looks like an average lower 150 millibars, and by lower 150 I'm talking about basically from here to here, from 1,000 to about 850. So up and down in that profile, I'm going to take an average, and I'm getting about, looks like around 13 grams per kilogram. So that's what I would call the moisture quantity there for Fort Worth. And we can actually use that to build the lifted condensation level. There it is up there. It looks a little bit high up there at about 6,000 feet. And it looks like we do have a problem with lots of warm air aloft. And I think a lot of that warm air was put there by latent heat within that system to the south. Where's that system to the south? There it is. Let's take a look at the satellite loop, and you can see that off the Texas coast right there. Let me slow that down just a bit. So this is a bit of a tropical system. If we had a little bit more ocean coverage and it was a little bit warmer, that would probably have some good potential of developing into a tropical system. So anyway, that's making landfall there in Texas. And let's take a look at a sounding a little bit closer. Let's try Lake Charles. That's going to be in southwestern Louisiana. Well, very humid profile there. And let's take the lowest 150. It's going to be right in here. I'm going parallel to these purple lines right here. And I'm getting about 14 grams per kilogram. And you may wonder where I'm getting that. I'm reading it off these numbers right here at the bottom. So these purple lines, these indicate mixing ratio, and they're very similar to dew point. But moisture is conserved when you use these mixing ratios. Dew point is not. So mixing ratio gives you a little bit more of an accurate indicator of the moisture quantity. So 14 there for Lake Charles, and let's just do a couple more around the area, and that'll kind of give us an idea of the richness of the moisture. And this is what I do on storm days too. That looks like about 13 for Shreveport. Let's try Corpus Christi. Wow, they're really loaded up. Wow. Okay, the top of the layer right there, there's the bottom, so we're going to, that's 16 gram per kilogram. That pretty much cuts it right in the middle. So lots of moisture there at Corpus Christi. And then we'll just try one more. Let's try Del Rio, a little bit further to the west. You may wonder why I'm taking these numbers here. That's about 14 right there. This is actually pretty useful because if you are using a station that's kind of in between observations, like right there, you might be using some model data to kind of see what's going on, or using surface data or whatever. Often it's very useful to take this moisture profile and maybe apply it to another sounding that you get from another source. We can actually, let me give you an example. Say that there's very strong southeasterly flow at Corpus Christi right there. Very strong flow blowing towards Del Rio. Well, we know that the moisture at Corpus Christi is about 16 grams per kilogram. So assuming there's very strong moisture advection and there's not much going on aloft, we could actually take that 16 and modify it. So there's 16 there at Del Rio. So that's basically taking the Corpus Christi moisture, applying it to Del Rio. And we figure out our mixing, or our lifted condensation level, and then our lifted parcel is going to run something like that. So if we were to advect all that moisture up to Del Rio, we would certainly have some very strong thunderstorms developing. And that kind of calculation that I just showed you, we do use that from time to time during the spring for severe weather forecasting. Okay, let's see what else is going on. There's a look from the SPC mesoscale analysis showing the showers out there in the Houston area, and pretty good easterly component across Texas, and also they're getting some storms up north. Let me see if I can switch over to that. Yep, there they are. Looks like around the Chicago area. I would hate to be flying in there tonight. Probably lots of delays. In through the Rockford area, up to north of Des Moines, and back towards Omaha. And let's try taking a look a little bit further east. We don't look at the northeast too much, do we? All right, well, still pulling in some southwesterly flow. Looks like some hot weather for parts of New Jersey, Maryland, and Virginia. Let's check the surface observations there. Yeah, it looks like it's moderated a little bit, only showing 80s at this time. But up to the north, it looks like we can see that front up there in the New York, upstate New York area. All right, this is a good time to take a look at conditions aloft. Let's go up to 250 millibars. So this is 34,000 feet, and we've got the polar front jet coming into California and Nevada, unusually strong for this time of year, and then arcing up towards Ontario and Quebec. And typically when we see a very strong low like this, that brings inclement weather to the Great Plains. But we've had kind of a problem over the past month or two where these lows, they dig in right there in the Great Basin area, and they eject up to the northeast like that right there. And so that means parts of the Central Plains gets grazed by the shortwaves as they track northeast, and nothing for Texas and Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. However, we do have that tropical disturbance down south to keep us busy. All right, the other thing that we look for is, especially this time of year, is the ridging. And we can certainly see that there in Indiana. And I saw Sue M there reporting, let me just double check, make sure I didn't get that confused. Yeah, Sue M reporting very hot and beautiful clear skies there in Indiana. So there's where the upper level high is, right over Indiana. You can see that cyclonic flow around like that right there. And looks like maybe another little high in the Texas area right around here. See the south winds right there coming north in Fort Worth and then east at Corpus Christi. So kind of a double-barreled subtropical high region. Actually, I think this is actually a little bit more baroclinic, because we did notice a little bit of tilt on that yesterday. In fact, let's look at the 500 millibar chart. Where's the upper level high? Well, there's westerly flow up there. I'm going to kind of paint out the wind flow here. Yeah, looks like we pick up easterly flow there in Mississippi and Louisiana. There's southerly flow right there, so that's going to put that high right there, eastern Tennessee. So it does kind of tilt upwards with height. The 250 high is right there. There's the 500 millibar high. And let's see where it is at 700. Okay, yeah, it's right there over northern Florida. So it's tilting up and to the north. And typically when we have tilt with a system, whether it's a low or a high, when there's tilt in the vertical, that tells us that it has baroclinicity. And that means there's temperature advection taking place, and we would find frontal characteristics with those sorts of systems, and there's also a tendency for it to progress with the westerlies there. Lots of moisture in Texas, just kind of a weak low-level jet in place. Yeah, actually getting 60-degree Fahrenheit dew point temperatures in Texas, so that moisture is definitely pretty rich. Okay, let's head over to the satellite, see what's going on there. There's the visible imagery showing thunderstorms along that dry line feature there, all the way from Texas up to Kansas, and out to the west there's that upper level low, and of course over Indiana, high pressure. In fact, all the way down to Tennessee and parts of Alabama and Georgia. So let's put that loop into motion. And you can certainly see the effect of that upper level high here, keeping things pretty clear all along that axis that we just painted out. All right. So let's see. Let's zoom in on a few regions and see what's going on. Northern Plains, once again, thunderstorms from the Dakotas, Nebraska, all the way eastward. Let's put that into motion. Many, many storms. This is lots of multi-cells. And underneath you can see that little outflow boundary right there. So it's pushing out a little bit of cold air. And assuming there's no big changes, that'll probably displace a lot of the activity further to the south for tomorrow. Down in Texas, again, there's that system off the Texas coast, gradually moving inland. So we're going to be seeing more of that in Texas. And then in Indiana. Whoa, Indiana, okay. Very spectacular storm up there. I guess that's going to be north of... See, that's going to be probably somewhere southeast of Gary. And we can see that an outflow boundary was involved. If we run that back, yeah, look at that little ring right there. So there was something going on either this morning or last night. There's the cirrus debris from that stuff right there. So that's the telltale evidence something was going on there. And then, of course, when we run that forward, you can see the development right in that area there. And it's interesting, that's pretty much where the low-level flow impinges on that outflow boundary. So that tends to be a favorite area right there. So no wonder we got a little bit of convection going up. Wonder if there's anybody chasing it. Maybe some people from Purdue might have decided to venture north. Good question. I know there's tons of chasers on the Great Plains, but sometimes I wonder how many of them make it into unusual areas like Idaho, Nevada. I guess I should take a look at some of those chaser trackers and see what exactly goes on. I know a few of them make it up into Canada for sure there. Maybe some of you all know if there's organized storm chase activity that far away from the Great Plains. I'm kind of curious. All right, elsewhere, we'll take a look at the Idaho area. You can see things spinning out there. They've had a lot of precip in that area over the past few days. And looks like some more organized stuff over Wyoming, right in this area here. And probably helping with that is, if we consider the upper level low, what causes that, that's basically an air mass. Let me bring up the chart here and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, there's the 250 millibar chart, and you saw things spinning right there. What's actually causing that upper level low is basically a large mass of dense air. That's basically all that is, and that lowers the heights as you go higher into the troposphere. But you can see Wyoming out here, they're on the edge, and they're closer to the upper level dynamics. You can see the stronger winds there, 55 to 60 knots in that area compared with only about 20 in Idaho. And that's really all the difference that it takes to organize the storms better. And let's roll that one more time. You can see how much better the storms look in that area there. Storms developing orographically and moving into the northeast part of Wyoming, whereas this stuff here is a little bit more mushy. Okay, let's see. I'm going to check in on chat. I was going to try to do a hand-plotted chart. Well, we don't have a hand-plotted chart. Unfortunately, we were kind of stumped by Windows. It was refusing the printout, so we're still working on that. But hopefully we can do some hand analysis. So anyway, I was going to pull out a chart and showing you the lonely analysis table. Nothing to analyze. Anyway, we'll work on that and hopefully get some graphics to work with tomorrow. Okay, so that brings us to the forecast. And of course, I thank Pivotal Weather for allowing us use of these charts. These are certainly some of the best charts on the internet. This and of course F5 Data has got some good stuff there. And we can see down there in the Houston area lots of convection. And as we go through the night up to midnight, looks pretty rainy there on the coast. It's a combination of the very unstable conditions plus the very strong onshore flow. In the inland areas, the winds are a little bit lighter and they're a little bit more backed. So that gives kind of a conversion area right in between. Let me show you another way of visualizing that. I'll bring up the actual wind speeds. So you see what's going on here on the coast. Look how strong those winds are just off the Galveston. These are sustained 25 to 30 knots, but inland, very light winds. So there's definitely some convergence there along the coast, and that's going to certainly help out the convection quite a bit. So running that forward through the rest of the night, we will lose a little bit of the diurnal influence. So by tomorrow morning, most of the showers are in the Victoria to Port Aransas, Corpus Christi, and San Antonio area. But we're going to expect to see this area start flaring up as we get heating returning once again. In fact, there it is. That's the last frame I have. That's about noon. Then taking a look up to the north. Very linear MCS. Looks like a couple of them there. And we're going to see some of that march through Illinois. More storms there for Chicago. And then things will start dying out towards dawn, as MCSs usually do. But it's almost certain they're going to regenerate. And it looks like this one is getting started right here in Iowa. So it looks like more storms for this corridor right here. Northern northern Missouri through around Champaign to around just north of Indianapolis. All right, we'll take a look at the 200 millibar chart. There's that upper level high that we were talking about, very deep low in the western U.S. And let's just take a look at the next 84 hours. Well, once again, this upper level low heading up towards Manitoba and Ontario. A little bit of troughing right here, so it looks like a kind of a round of thunderstorms right there for the central plains. But of course, most of it will be heading up into Minnesota and Iowa, as if they haven't had enough rain there. Meanwhile, the subtropical high, or hybrid baroclinic subtropical high, looks like that kind of merges in with the Bermuda high, kind of settles back into the Florida area, so that should shut down things a little bit for that area. And then we're kind of watching the true subtropical high there around Arizona. If that builds in, we're going to see things clear and temperatures really start coming up. And yeah, it looks like it's starting to spread there into the Tucson and El Paso area. Meanwhile, it looks like we do get a little bit of northwesterly flow in Texas, surprisingly. I didn't expect that. Looks like a little bit of negative tilt troughing in the central U.S. That's interesting, and that's just enough to kind of graze Oklahoma and Texas as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. So we would have to be kind of on guard for northwesterly flow thunderstorms in that area right there. So we'll keep an eye on that. All we need is very good low-level moisture in this area right here. And we've got the upper level dynamics right there. So those are kind of all the ingredients that we need to get storms going in Texas and Oklahoma. And summer, that's a very big season for MCSs, especially in the Midwest and Central U.S., especially right in there. Okay, let's see. Probably time to head into the GFS. Yeah, let's just pick up the GFS here. And we'll look at things over the next couple weeks. Well, yeah, you know, I really should show you the NAM because we've got that system coming into Texas, and you can see a little bit of circulation on that. Let me bring up a chart there for Texas, because this is kind of interesting here. So this is the NAM forecast showing that system moving inland, and you can see a little bit of a closed low right there off of Port Aransas. And it looks like that makes landfall right around now. And there it is. You can see a little bit of circulation there around the Victoria area, out around Shiner. And then that moves up into the San Antonio area around dawn. And let's see if we can trace where that ends up. Looks like that falls apart. Yeah, not very much to that system. Anyway, back in behind it, we will still have the Gulf open, and that will continue bringing up the moisture. And let's look at the precipitable water and see what we have set up here. Remember these lavender colors; these are 2-inch amounts. That means if you could precipitate the entire column all the way up to the tropopause, you would be able to squeeze out 2 inches in Texas. Meanwhile, in the deserts out there around Arizona, this is around 1/4 inch, so the atmosphere there is much drier. So let's see what happens over the next couple of days. We're really bringing in that moisture into the southern and central U.S. there, so that's going to continue feeding that frontal boundary up to the north. So it looks like a very rainy pattern for this area here. And let's see, even up to Friday, we've still got an onshore gradient right there. Anyway, it looks like that front progressively moves south, a combination of maybe baroclinicity and outflow boundaries, cold pools, gradually driving that front all the way down in Oklahoma and Texas. So it looks like precip chances will be coming up in this area here as we get later in the week. And then finally, it looks like the onshore flow kind of breaks up towards the weekend. So the gradient looking a little bit weaker. Well, it starts building up there later in the week. There comes some more moisture. And then let's check out next week. Yeah, the gradient starts relaxing around midweek. And looks a little bit more normal by that period. So it looks like things shut down a little bit. So basically after this upcoming weekend, the pattern is going to be dominated probably by the subtropical high and whatever we have coming in from the north. So we'll look at the GFS for that. Let's go back to that chart. So now we have a pretty good idea what the moisture is doing. So now we can track the southward progress of that boundary right here. So this is going to be around Wednesday. So MCS activity for Kansas, Nebraska there for midweek. And there's the front right there on Wednesday. And looks like that gets driven southward by that northwesterly flow. That and probably a little bit of that cold pool action along the front. So rain chances definitely going up for Texas. There it is along the Red River. And then this low will probably start pulling eastward there. There it goes up into the Great Lakes. Okay, yeah, it looks rainy for Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Illinois, or Missouri, Kansas. And, yeah, especially Kansas right there. And then we go into next week. Still pretty active there in Kansas. And some of you may be wondering about severe weather potential, and for that we really have to look at the upper level charts. Let's go back to that and see if there is any severe weather potential. 500 is a very good chart to use because that gives us a good average of the upper and lower flow there. So starting out around midweek, flow will be kind of enhanced right here where we have this strong gradient. See these lines right here? So they're going to kind of concentrate there in the central plains, probably a little bit of severe weather potential in that region. And then that will elongate into Oklahoma and the Red River in Kansas around Thursday. And then the stronger flow starts moving eastward into Arkansas and Tennessee there towards the end of the week. Okay. So, let's see. That's probably about all I got right there. Let me check in on chat, see what we got going on there. Okay, I saw something about audio in the chat. Let me just kind of scroll through here. Audio good. Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. Ron Chalfant got up to 73 there in Southern California. 38 degrees last night. Erica Baker says if you have build 1803, very buggy. Been dealing with issues for 2 weeks. You have to let me know which program that is. I'm kind of behind the curve here. Andrew Hotchkiss reporting Lake Erie sea breeze there triggered a line of storms north of Pittsburgh. 10-meter air temperature coming off the lake was a good 15 degrees cooler. You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I was looking at the models. Let me see if I can bring that up. I was looking at some of those lake temperatures there on Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, and I was surprised how cool it was. Over those lakes, it was like down in the mid-60s. So let me see if I can bring up a temperature map. Yeah, there it is right there. So, yeah, 90 degrees there around Rochester, New York, 89 around Syracuse. But if I put a forecast skew-t in the middle of the lake and read off the temperature, only about 62 there at the lake, and you can see that very strong inversion right there due to that cold pool kind of hugging the lake surface. So yeah, it's just amazing. You know, just jump on a boat, go 20 miles into the center of the lake, and you drop from 89 into the mid-60s. And it looks even much cooler on Lake Huron. Look at that, close to 51. It's like those lakes have their own little microclimates. Yeah, 50 degrees at 1 p.m. Yeah, if I lived up there, I'd have to have a boat for days like this. Anyway, let's see. I think that's about all I got for tonight. I'm going to try to do more of that hand analysis, and maybe we can fill that up and do something with that. So stay tuned and check in with us later in the week. Does Texas need the rain? Yeah, we do need the rain. We had a little bit of rain earlier in the year, but it's kind of slacked off, and I think May and June were kind of, so far, have been kind of dry. Okay, yeah, I appreciate the comments, Ryan, and Carl Berghoff, and Sue M. Okay. So, you all know what that means. We'll go ahead and close things out. I appreciate you all joining the webcast, and we're going to try to do some interesting stuff this week and kind of pick things up and learn some new topics here. So I'm kind of working through that and figuring out what we want to cover. Anyway, hope you all have a good evening. Take care, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.